Well, it's another very warm welcome back, all my vintage dirt bike loving YouTubers, and thanks to each and every one of you for returning to my classic dirt bike TV channel. And again, thanks to the many brand new subscribers who have signed up since my last video posting. So I do hope you're finding something in here to entertain you with regards looking at these old classic dirt bikes. Now, coming up in this next video, we're going to take a look at an old classic from 1974, and this is an old Kawasaki KX125 that I filmed a few years ago. So we're going to take a look at this old vintage racer. Not a fully original bike, of course, but nevertheless certainly worth a look right here on my video channel. So without any further delay, let's just jump straight into the video. Now, this 1974 KX125 Kawasaki is not, as you can see, a fully original bike, as it has a few non-original parts fitted on it, and I actually think that the owner had made a start on this bike's refurbishment, as it had a new set of wide foot pegs fitted to it and one or two other newish bits and pieces. But as you can see, the bike's not had much love in the last few years, but what a nice little bike to start a restoration on, as most of the important parts, of course, are all in one place, such as the frame, the motor, the forks, and of course the tank and seat. But as barn finds go, this is certainly a very good acquisition, and it was actually unclear as to what the current owner was going to do with this bike, whether he was going to just sell it as it is, or maybe keep it and do a complete restoration on it. But at least if he does go ahead and do a full refurbishment on the bike, we already have these photos and video clips as a reference of what the bike looked like before it was done. Although these particular 74 KX125s were superb little bikes back in their day and quite popular with the 125 riders at the time, because they were light and of course they were quick and very flickable. Now, the motor was a single cylinder two-stroke which had that very unique rotary disc valve induction fuel system on this right hand side of the crankshaft, where the little 26mm Mikuni carb would feed the fuel. But it was a very reliable system, and in practice it worked extremely well. Now, the motor also had a close ratio 6-speed gearbox and a standard wet multi-plate clutch. Now, the ignition was by an electronic CDI unit, and of course the engine also had a foam air filter which could be removed, re-oiled and then reused multiple times. But for a little 125 two-strokes, these were buzzy little engines, and you could make them go quite quick if you were prepared to work the gas or throttle and of course dance up and down on that 6-speed gearbox. And with the complete machine only weighing in at around 180 pounds, you can imagine how easy it was just to pop a wheelie or two on this particular 125. But for me personally, if it was my own bike, I'd be looking to do a full restoration on this little machine, as quite a lot of the valuable parts are already on the bike, and it would certainly look stunning once it was all finished and completed. Now, the bike's fuel tank is in quite good condition for a 47-year-old bike, and these steel fuel cells held around 1.7 gallons of gas, which was more than enough to keep the 125 motor fed on even the longest of motocross races. Now, the bike's rear shocks are, as you'd expect, not correct for this bike, as they would have had a pair of very nice alloy bodied units back in 1974. But as far as I can make out, the exhaust expansion chamber is the right part for this 125, and that was one of the other memories of these 74 KX125s, was that the scream that came out of this tailpipe when these bikes went whizzing by when you had that throttle pinned open. Now the Kawasaki's front forks were again decent enough units for a 125 of the 1970s period, but these were really just the suspension technology of 1974, but by all accounts these brakes on this little KX were very good for an old style drum braking system. Now once again the bike's front and rear plastic mudguards are not right for this bike, as they of course would have been white back in 1974 and not black as seen here, but that's just a minor inconvenience and not something that couldn't be put right if anybody ever decided to do a full-on resto of this little machine. But with this very tight and compact 125 engine and the chrome moly steel chassis and of course its decent suspension and very good brakes, these were still without doubt a very competitive racing package and were certainly a worthy adversary to take on Honda's iconic CR125 Elsinore, which was of course one of the most popular bikes in the 125 class in that early 1970s period. Although back in 1974 when these KX125s were launched, they certainly received very good reviews from the off-road journalists and dirt bike magazine riders who tested these machines in their natural racing environment, and no matter what particular publication you subscribed to at the time, the feedback on these bikes was more or less positive in each and every case. Although whatever the current owner decides to do with this bike, whether he sells it on or does a full restoration on the bike, he's certainly picked up a little gem, and I'm sure that he'll have no trouble in getting interested parties knocking at his door if he decides to sell it. But without doubt, this is another piece of 1970s motocross history, and wouldn't it be great just to see this little KX125 taking to the track once again, just so that we can all catch a glimpse and remember once again when these little 125s were a very common sight on racetracks around the globe in 1974. Well, I do hope you enjoyed taking a look at that very nice barn fresh 1974 Kawasaki KX125. Quite a nice little restoration project for somebody should the owner ever decide to sell the bike on. Okay, coming up, we'll soon be hitting the road once again to start filming brand new material for my YouTube channel, so I do hope you'll continue to subscribe to my channel in order that you don't miss out on any of these brand new machines that we've got coming up soon. But until then, in my next video posting, we're going to take a look at this very nice looking 1979 XR80 Honda mini bike. Now, this was a machine that underwent a full restoration by the guys at MHF Restoration, so we'll be taking a look at that bike in my next video posting. But of course, until then, everybody continue to be safe and well, and we'll all get together once again to speak about more of these vintage classics right here on Classic Dirt Bike TV.